Welcome back to the channel. This is The Casuals. I'm Jin.
And I'm Saki.
And today's episode is Meal for Two. I don't know what to call it. I'm just gonna call it super sultry soba. Oh well TLDR, we went to Soba. So I guess how do we start with this? So I wanted to get some new stuff for my computer, and we went ahead and went to computer, kind of more of an impromptu. We didn't really plan it out well. It was more of a last minute thing, and before we went, I was like, hey, I want to get food in the area near Micro Center, and you're like, sure, what is there? And I looked around, and there was just a lot of like common stuff, I guess, like the usual Italian, a lot of sandwich places, cafes, all sorts of like that kind of stuff, and a lot of fast food places around that area for some reason. And I noticed this one place called like Tanakaya Soba, and I was like, oh, I like soba. I haven't had soba in a very long time in a restaurant, so I sent it to Saki, and you're like, this seems pretty good. And we kind of just went, we'll try it, right? We'll try it. Two things I neglected though. One was the wait time at the Micro Center thing that I had to do, and two, how long the line was gonna be when we got to the Tanakaya Soba. When we had got there, it was around, I think, 12, right?
I think somewhere around 12, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was around 12. And when we got there 12, there was already a bunch of people in the restaurant. There was a bunch of people waiting outside, and I went in and looked at the what's it called, the wait list, and there was like, I want to say 8 parties ahead of us. And I was like, oh, maybe we can wait it out, because we had also found out when we got there that it was only open between the times of like 11 to 2:30, and then it closed for a short while, and then it reopens at like 5 to whatever time when they close, in order to prepare for dinner, I guess rush, or dinner like time. And we're like, maybe we can wait it out. We could definitely get a seat before 2:30, or whenever they close for the first half. But the issue was that I was still in the wait list for Micro Center, and so my time jumped up from like 40 minutes to like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and like unexpectedly. So I was like, I don't think we can eat here, because we have to go back to Micro Center. So we ended up actually going back and canceling our I ended up crossing out our names from that Soba waitlist, and we went back and did our whole Micro Center, and we're like, we gotta go try this. And so the next day comes around, we actually do go try it this time, and I think we get there around
11.
Yeah. Oh, they open at 11:30, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 11:30. Sorry. We get there at 11. There was already quite a few people waiting. I think there was like 4 or 5 parties ahead of us.
4.
4? Yeah. That wasn't too big of a deal, because we were still, I think it was like up to 10 people. 10 parties rather. So, we were at the 5th position. Didn't really matter. We were in at least, but people started lining up more and more. And we kind of got, did you have some kind of expectation after seeing the 2 lines twice now? Like, how there was quite a bit of people?
Yeah. It was a tiny restaurant, but if the line's that long, it has to be pretty good.
Yeah. It was almost like the same situation for our udon, udon at the Little Tokyo where we went there, remember?
Yeah, but we actually researched that one.
That is true. We did kind of research that one a little bit. And so, we had quite a bit of expectations going in. I'm not gonna lie. I do generally try keeping my expectations low or neutral. What about you? Do you generally try keeping your expectations low or neutral?
Usually pretty low, unless it's like a well-known place. Then it's like a little higher, but usually it's pretty on the lower side.
Yeah. So we get in, and we're looking at a bunch of different orders, and I think one of the bigger impressions for me was like they had these combo sets called the special set, I think it was called, and it's like almost $20, practically $20. But it came with like a full soba, like whatever you choose, either cold or hot, and like 3 different kinds that you can choose from each category. So that's 6 different sobas you can already choose from. And then a don. And for those of you who don't know what a don is, it's basically rice with topping that is usually consists of meat, and it's called a don bowl. And it came with that, a small version of that, but that for $20 actually did not seem that bad overall. And I think later we learned on that it actually is probably very worth to get the special set because of the serving sizes of each thing we got. And we ended up not getting the, what's it called? Ended up not getting the special set. We had actually ended up ordering individual ones. So would you like to go over your order?
Yeah, sure. So we started off with karaage for the table. Honestly, that was pretty good.
It was really good.
Not gonna lie, even though I specialize in soba, that was actually pretty good.
Yeah, after that karaage, you were like, ooh, like I kind of have my hopes up now because the karaage was really good.
It was. They had it was big pieces and fresh. And then the sauce. I don't know what sauce. It was like a mayo sauce, but it was still pretty good.
Yeah. I guess the only downside, which is kind of like not too big, it's not even a big grievance, but it's more like they just put hot karaage, like freshly fried karaage, on top of vegetables.
Oh yeah, there's like a hot salad under.
Yeah. That isn't really a grievance because a lot of people won't really complain about that in the first place, unless I guess you're a really big vegetable lover. To each of their own, not like, I'm making fun of it or anything, but it's just like, it's very small, honestly. And plus, like, if you get it right away, you can just pick out the vegetables and put them aside,
Yep, that is true, but I didn't think of that. Like, I didn't realize there was a salad underneath until we started picking the chicken away, and I was like, oh, there's a salad. I'm like, oh, it's kind of a hot salad.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll still eat it. I'm like, screw it, I'll still eat it.
Yeah. And I think, how much was that karaage? It was like $10, right? 10 or 11?
It was about $10.
Would you say it is worth to order frequently? I wouldn't say all the time, but I think frequently is more of a harder debate to make.
I mean, if you're pretty hungry, yeah.
Yeah, you think
If you're
so?
not like super hungry, I would just, get like a normal meal or maybe a lunch combo. But I don't know. For the amount they gave you is a little bit. If it was like $8, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm in
But
agreement.
it was a smaller portion. I mean, it is an appetizer, but it was like a small appetizer.
Yeah, and I think what's funny about us in general, Saki, is that every time we think like we're on the fence about something in terms of price ratio versus like, is it worth it, right? It's always a difference of a factor of where we're kind of like, we really liked it, but we wouldn't really recommend it. But at the same time, it's really good, but we really wouldn't recommend it in terms of like actual money price, whatever. It's always off by like $2. It's always that $2 factor more.
Yeah.
And some other people were just like, it's just $2, it's not a big deal, right? But then when you see the price jump from $8 to 10, that does some psychological like blockage to you.
Yeah, it does. For $10, I'd say at least try it once, but for us, if they lowered it a couple bucks, every time.
I just suddenly remembered that there is a whole psychology behind that. There was a whole study about that where like, people are more likely to buy like an item that is like, what was it, let's just say $59.99, right? More than $60.
Yep.
Even if it's a 1 cent difference, for some reason there's that weird psychological effect where it's like $59.99 seems way better deal than the $60. And I think it's like the same thing kind of to us where it's like $2 lower, all right, amazing deal. Even though in the bigger scheme of things, and if you're in the position where you're able to eat out in a restaurant, $2 is honestly not that much in actuality.
In actuality, yeah, it's really not that big of a deal. We're just cheaper on the cheaper side, so we're
pretty damn cheap.
We're making it a bigger deal than it really is.
Yeah,
but
like,
honestly, it's not that big of a deal.
For the enjoyment out of it, it's 100% worth, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that statement.
And so yeah, so that was the first thing we ate, karaage, and then we got the sobas. So your soba, would you like to talk about that too?
Yeah, so I got a cold soba.
Mm-hmm.
It was called an ozaru, which I don't, which means it's like 2 layers. So I
Mm-hmm.
got like double soba
Mm-hmm.
because I was like hungry because I knew we were eating there for lunch, so I didn't really eat breakfast. So I came in hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, of course, I got the 2-layer cold soba. It has like a little dipping sauce. You can put wasabi and green
Mm-hmm.
onions and all this other stuff, and you just take the soba noodles, dip it in there, and you eat it.
Mm-hmm.
By golly, that was good because I've had the zaru and udon noodles.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, that's pretty good, but let's try actual soba this time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good. It was a lot of noodles. I thought the portions were gonna be smaller because usually like Japanese food portions are, normal size, not American sized.
Yeah.
So when I got that, I was like, oh, that's a lot bigger than I was expecting.
Would you like to tell them about the time you almost drank the sauce?
Oh yeah, so I was eating. I'm like, the sauce was salty. I'm like, I'm getting kind of thirsty. So I picked up the little like jug they gave you
Mm-hmm.
that had the sauce in it. I was putting it to my mouth. I looked at it. I'm like, wait a minute, it smells salty. And I looked down. I'm like, oh, I almost just drank the sauce. So I put it back, and I grabbed the water. I'm like, that could have been a horrible mistake.
I guess to get a little bit more context, so as you said, the sauce is in some kind of bottle. To give you like, I guess to almost paint a picture, imagine a ceramic like tiny bottle that you could easily mistaking it for like a sake, like an alcoholic bottle drink, right?
Yeah.
That's what it was, and so I do not blame him at all. In fact, I would have probably done the same if I was in his position, where I would have picked it up. I would be like, wait a minute. In fact, I probably would have been dumb enough to drink it without thinking. So yeah, it looked like a alcoholic bottle, like those tiny ones, like 250 milliliters or something like that. I don't know the actual size, or maybe smaller. But yeah, it was like that. And I do not blame him for mistaking it. It kind of naturally fits your hand too, if you think about it.
It did. It fits comfortably in your hand, and if you're just hungry and you're eating, and then all of a sudden you're thirsty and you're not paying attention, yeah, you're gonna drink the sauce.
Yeah. So it was, yeah, and then I did try a little bit of your noodles. The one thing that I really liked about it was kind of like springy in a sense. I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like, it's hard to describe the texture, but it was a nice texture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like not overcooked.
Yeah, not overcooked. It was just soft enough, but also kind of like, not chewy, but like springy. You know, that first bite.
Yeah.
And so it was really nice, and then it kind of goes into that mindset. It's like, this is proper soba.
Yeah. Plus, it was what, 80s, in the 80 temperature Fahrenheit.
Yeah, around 80
Outside,
degrees.
Yeah, so I was like, I want cold because they do offer hot, but I'm like, gotta go cold with soba.
Yeah, and so
And then I was gonna say, and then after we got a normal sized don for the table.
yeah, and
That was the katsu one, right?
yeah, it was a katsudon.
It was a katsu don. So it's basically pizza, a piece of katsu over rice, and I think there was like egg on top.
Yeah, egg.
With egg on top. Dude, they just do everything right there.
Yeah, I remember when you had your first bite, you kind of gave me that look.
I literally took a bite, I chewed it a little, I looked at you and gave you the Shaq eating that hot chip look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I basically did that to you, and you just looked at me and you're like, oh, like you almost did it back, but you didn't even eat it.
Because normally you do not make that face. It is very rare for you to make that face. In food especially, I feel like. And so seeing you make that face, I was like, oh, something must be right if you're making that face. So I kind of had that expectation all of a sudden, like, because I didn't honestly have that much of expectation in the first place for the don too. Like, I don't think you did either.
Not really, because it's a soba place.
Yeah.
Like, they specialize in soba specifically, so when they do something like amazing with something else, I'm just like, oh, that's unexpected. Like, it's like going to like a steakhouse and then you get like fish and it's just like equally as good. You're just like, wow, that's a little weirdly unexpected.
Yeah. And I guess to describe their don, right, especially the katsu, it was actually slightly crunchy still, like despite it being covered, because we left it covered for a little bit, so it kind of steamed inside its own heat. which in turn softened the katsu itself.
And the breading around it. Yeah.
So usually I kind of expected it to be mushy. It was actually still kind of crunchy, which was very nice. And everything, it just tasted good. It was very good.
And the rice was good because the sauce went into the rice, and you're
Oh
just eating the
yeah.
seasoned rice, and you're just like, oh, it's like Food Wars.
And I remember you were like, "Is he gonna come out?"
Oh yeah, because in Food Wars, there's what the Research
Don
Society?
Research Society,
Don
yes.
Research Society, and there's this dude with a really wacky hairdo.
Yeah.
And when we ate it, we're like, oh my god, it's so good. And I'm looking at the kitchen door. I'm like, when's he coming out?
The pompadour. He had the fabulous pompadour. Oh, and I remember we were just constantly like, "Is he gonna come out?" Nah.
And then we took another bite, and I kept looking at the door. I'm like, he's got to come out sometime.
So that was your cold soba and then the don. I got a hot soba because I was just like, might as well try it, right? Normally I would have gotten cold soba because that's generally how I prefer my soba, but I was like, you know what? Might as well because first time, why not? Kind of go wacky. I usually don't do that, but kind of wacky. So I got a thing called kashiwa, soba, and I completely forgot what kashiwa was even for in like terms of what it means and represents and what's so special about it. But basically the waiter or server rather said he recommended it. So I was like, I'll go with kashiwa because I was kind of stuck between two, and kashiwa was one of them. So I was like, oh, it matches, might as well get it. And it was actually surprisingly pleasant. And I think you tried some too, right?
I did. Although, like, if you don't eat it, I guess for me, if you don't eat it quick enough, the noodles got extremely mushy.
Yeah.
Because it's in the hot broth and it just cooks it more.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to eat it quicker.
Yeah.
I'd say. And then, I don't know why, but to me, the broth was a little bit over salty.
I can see that. I can definitely see that because I was about to go into this actually where at first it's really nice. Like it genuinely is really nice. But after a while it starts to feel a little heavy, but not heavy in the sense that you're eating something greasy, but more like heavy because like whatever it is, the soy sauce, right? I'm assuming it's a soy sauce based thing or at least some kind of, marinated like thing where it has some kind of sugar in it, right? Whether it be natural or additive sugar. When you heat it up, sugar becomes really heavy, like in general, right? And in the presence of heat, sugar feels really like hard to digest. Not hard to digest, but rather like in the mouth, it feels kind of like overly, not pungent, but kind of like it just coats, right? And so having that hot broth where it's like there's that natural sugar that was boiled kind of like amps up that kind of like, almost mild sweetness. And so if you eat if you eat the amount I did, because mind you, the serving sizes were actually pretty big in general, you kind of get like not jaded, but like you start kind of get like fatigued of that strong, taste. But that is to say, this is not necessarily a bad thing. It is just something that I do not generally like in food. But I do not rate this place any lower because it was still excellent when I first ate it. It's just the way I eat food and the way I like food is, not the way that this was intended for. So for all intents and purposes, the kashiwa was actually really good. It's just, it didn't match me,
Yeah, it's just your your preference, really.
Yeah, my preference. But I definitely do think people who like that kind of like, savory, almost like mild sweetness in like a broth, I definitely think they would like the kashiwa or like even general and hot soba in general. But for older people like us, we don't have the body capacity to handle hard food anymore, where we can destroy our bodies with trashy or like, higher than normal tolerance levels of food. Getting that cold soba, I think, is better for both of us.
Yeah. I think I enjoyed mine a little more than yours.
Yeah, and again, this is not a fault in the kashiwa or the people who made the dish. It's just us, you know. Um, Overall, though, this place, Tanakaya, excellent food. Overall, like you're getting solid, good food. It admittedly, it is still on the more expensive side, but I would say it is 100% worth if you're able to try that place. What about you?
Oh yeah, I would go back. Even with the prices, it was still good because yours was what, like 13, 14 bucks,
Yeah,
and yours was one portion of soba. I got double, and mine was like 16, so it's like $2 more for a whole another serving.
yeah.
So I thought it was definitely worth.
Yeah. And people might, and I guess like the main concern at first was because, you know, typically we are used to serving sizes being small. Um, and at those prices, if it was any small, if it was like maybe a third, or not third, 3/4 of that serving size, right? Maybe if it was a quarter down, we would start kind of be like, you know, on the fence, right? But they do give you a lot of, they give you a lot of noodles. So it's definitely worth its price. Um, and it more than enough makes up for it in the flavor department, you know?
Oh yeah, flavor was awesome, taste was amazing. It was just everything was done right, and it was like done with care.
Yeah, quality is definitely their strong point. Um, and it honestly didn't take that long to get our orders.
No, it didn't. Especially the karaage, because on the menu it says please allow 15 minutes after ordering for them
Yeah.
to make it. That did not take 15 minutes.
I think it took like 7.
7 or 8, yeah.
It might be because it was very first fry batch, so like there's not a lot of I don't know how they do it, but from what I know is that when you fry a lot of things, it gets harder to fry stuff because there's a lot of like residue start taking up the heat, so it takes a lot longer to heat up things.
Yeah, but then you can also like it also when you fry a bunch of things, you have to let the oil heat up again.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they like took a skimmer and like took out all the little bits that fell out, so it didn't have to like burn those and like reheat as take as long maybe.
Yeah.
But regardless, it was still amazing.
Yeah, 100% amazing. And I can't really talk about this. I don't think there isn't really much to talk about it. But right in the same plaza, there's a bakery called what was it? Cream Pan Bakery or something, and Cafe. Apparently that's really popping, from what I know.
Yeah, it looked really poppin'. To me, there wasn't really too like anything special. They had a very smaller selection, but I don't know. Their specialty, this strawberry cream croissant, like it's good, but I wouldn't go out of my way to get one.
Yeah, I feel like it's more of a locals thing, you know? If you're just here, they'll get it because, you know, it's right there.
Yeah, I agree, but
we live kind of far away, so.
Well, even if I was like next door or down the street, I still don't think I would have gone there. It was just okay.
And we didn't get to actually try their, signature, which was the cream pond. That thing was sold out. Gone.
Oh yeah, that was gone. Well, we got there like they said they opened at like what 5 or
Yeah,
something?
5 a.m. We got there at like 1 something, I think. 1 or 12.
So, something like no, it had to have been 1 because if we get 8 at 11:30.
Oh, yeah. Around 1 o'clock, yeah.
Around 1.
So, around 6 hours? 7? No. 7 hours had passed, I think.
Yeah. Plus, when we first arrived at the restaurant, there was a line outside that bakery, so.
Yeah. Maybe we'll try it. I don't know. Maybe we'll be able to get there at 5 a.m. and get some cream bun and be like, you know? It's a very real possibility. So, what else do I want to add? Oh, I guess rating the restaurant. Tanakaya. What would you rate it out of 5?
Honestly, I'd probably give it a 5.
Wow.
Everything was just done right, from the karaage to the don to the soba. Okay, the only thing I would change is a bigger water glass. Because it was a little small with that much salty food.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'd still give it a 5.
I think I'm in the same agreement. I give it a 5 out of 5. It was really delicious. Definitely want to go back there. I want to try their sampler. That looks really fun.
Oh, yeah. There's what, 5 different types of soba?
Yeah.
But there's six, but like servings of soba, like small serving.
Mhm.
But 2 of them are the matcha. So technically, there's only 5 different kinds, even though
Yeah.
there's 6 servings in there. Yeah.
But it looks fun. So
Yeah, it did look good.
next time I'm back there, definitely will try the mixed. But yeah, 5 out of 5. Tanakaya. I think it's what was Tustin, California. If you're ever in that area and you look up Tanakaya, definitely go give it a try. They're open at 11:30 to like 2:30 for the first half, and then 5:30 to whatever. Do you remember their closing time?
I want to say something like 9 or 10.
9 or
Probably
10.
9.
9:30. Let's just say 9:30. Because it kind of feels like it fits. 9:30 for their second half. Do you get there early? Because you're gonna have to wait if for either one. I assume for either dinner and lunch. Lunch. But yeah, any other remarks you want to make?
When are we going back?
Tomorrow. So I'm Jin.
And I'm Saki.
And this is The Casuals, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.